Well, hello there, my friend. Welcome into Drummer Daily. This is episode number 150, which is crazy, but it also means a couple of things. First, it means that, as always, you can check out if there are any show notes that come from this, which there may or may not be. There isn't always anything to speak of, but if you ever want to check out any links that I might mention on an episode of the podcast, or whatever, you can always go to danielhadaway.com/150 for today's show notes, and that goes for any episode number that we have. Just go to danielhadaway.com/ and then the episode number, and you can check all that info out. The second thing it means is that since it's episode 150, that means that there has been a lot of podcast episodes that I have created. In fact, these episodes average about 10 minutes. And so if I did the math, and if we were to add up all the amount of time that these podcasts totals up to, that is about 25 hours worth of me talking about drums with you. 25 hours. So if you're going to binge listen starting today, I hope you're nestled in for the whole day, and a little bit extra because it's going to be a long ride. But that means that hopefully if you're just joining me or you're new to the podcast, that you have lots of content and resources to go back through. And of course, binge listening is encouraged, but it's not required. You can also just go back through the podcast feed and pick out topics that seem interesting to you and kind of skip around. That was my goal for this podcast all along, was that you would have kind of a library of topics that you can listen to and form your own opinions about, disagree with me on stuff, agree with me on stuff, get some new ideas, hopefully, to transform your drumming and become a better drummer and get hired as a drummer. And incidentally, that's what I want to talk to you about today. Seeing that this is episode 150, I wanted to kind of break from what we've been doing recently, which is answering listener questions. And I wanted to kind of just check in and give you an opportunity to kind of set a milestone for yourself, or take this milestone in the podcast and maybe use it as a milestone for yourself and a kind of a measuring stick or a moment to kind of take a minute and think about your drumming career, look at where you're at, and kind of reassess and really take stock of what's going on in your drumming career. And incidentally, I think we will, in the process of today, actually maybe answer a very common question or a very common email that I receive. It's not really a question, it's more of just like a comment that I hear a lot from you guys who listen to this podcast. But I do want to just ask you, how is it going? You know, how is, if you're pursuing becoming a professional drummer, how's that going? Are you making progress? Do you feel like you're not making progress? I did a check-in with some students in my master class recently, and just said, "Hey, how are things going?" And a lot of guys replied and said, "It's going tough. Either I've been really busy and I haven't had a chance to focus, or there's some rough things that maybe happened in my personal life that have kept me from dedicating the time that I need to this, or a bunch of other things." And so I want to ask you the same question, kind of, how is it going? And even if you need to, pause this podcast for a second and really think about that. You know, do you feel like you're stuck? Do you feel like you're not stuck? Do you feel like maybe your progress is not going as quick as you want? Or maybe you feel like you are making good progress and you're just chugging along. I will say this though, because I get a lot of comments, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, but I just want to remind you that your job as an artist, which I believe that all of us as drummers are artists, we're musicians, when we create art, that an artist's job at the end of the day is to create art. Our job is not to have any specific kind of end result achieved. Now, we can all have goals as far as the end result goes, whether that's a career as a drummer, whether that means being able to play certain types of music really well, or whatever it might be is that we have as a goal. Those are very valuable and good things to pursue. But at the end of the day, not achieving those things yet does not prevent you from being a great artist and being a drummer. Your job as an artist is to just show up and create art. That is your job. So a drummer's job is to play drums. So the first step that I want you to think about is, are you actually just showing up and playing drums? Are you actually taking time to play drums? And I don't mean every day necessarily. It'd be great if it was every day. But are you taking time to actually do this? Are you maybe sacrificing time doing something else that you like in order to pursue this craft? If you're not, I think that's a good place to start moving forward. There's a book that I'm reading right now. It's a great book. It's by a guy named Jeff Goins. He's actually from here in Nashville, near where I live. But it's called Real Artists Don't Starve. And it's about the idea that the concept of a starving artist is kind of old and is not really accurate. There's a lot of really great stuff in there. So I highly encourage you to read that book. And so I'll put a link to that book. I'll just put like the Amazon link in the show notes here. So danielhadaway.com/150. But it's a great book. I got a lot of great ideas and I think there's a lot there for us as drummers and anyone who's pursuing becoming a professional musician. It's a great book to read if you're a book reader. But I get a lot of emails from you guys, from people that I'm trying to help, telling me why it's so hard out there for them or for you to become a professional drummer. There's always something unique. Like here's my situation. This is why it's so hard for me. And here's the thing. I would probably agree with almost all of them. Like I would say, yeah, it is hard. It actually is really hard. I'm thinking of very specific, some people that I have a little closer relationship with, some of the students that I've helped coach, things like that. And there are very tough things, no jobs or getting laid off or family members that are really sick, things that are tough. And I definitely, again, I'm agreeing with all of that. Makes it really hard. And in those specific situations, I don't get this feeling, but I get a lot of emails that aren't quite as extreme, but they're just still telling me why this is hard. And I feel like I'll reply back sometimes and say, hey, here's some ideas maybe to deal with that or to move forward. And I get pushback on that a lot from people. And I kind of get the feeling that a lot of drummers that I talk to, they really just want me to give them an excuse to give up. I feel like the only thing that would really be satisfying to some drummers that I talk to would be me saying, you know what? Yeah, you're right. This isn't going to work for you. Just go get a day job. Just give it up. But I don't believe that. I'm not going to tell you that because I don't believe it's true. I do not believe that you should give up. You have to keep going. You have to keep pursuing your craft. And I kind of want to, if you listened at all to this podcast, I love a good metaphor or a good story that kind of relates to what we're talking about. So I want you to imagine that you're running a race, and you don't, and I'm not a runner, so this is a stretch for me. But let's say you're running a race, and you don't know how long that race is. But you do know that before you start this race, you were told there is a definite finish line to this race. It is out there, and the way that you can win this race, you don't even have to be the first one across the finish line. Everyone gets the prize for winning the race as long as they cross the finish line. So it doesn't matter if you're the first one or the last one. You just have to finish the race to win, and it's going to be a kind of a cross-country race. So you're going through some woods. It's a narrow trail that you can't really see. There's a lot of curves, so you can't see, what's around the curve. You definitely can't see the finish line when you start, but you know there is one, and you know that if you just keep moving forward, eventually you'll get there. And so eventually you've been running this race for a while, and you start to get frustrated and upset that you haven't reached that finish line. You're like, this is way longer than I thought it was going to be. This race is taking way too long. I don't even know how much longer I've got to go. I don't see the finish line. I believe it's there. I know what it's going to look like when I get there, but I'm not there yet, and I'm frustrated. But I'm just going to keep walking. I'm so tired. I might only take one step a day, but I'm going to keep walking. Or keep running, or whatever you can do. You decide you're going to keep going a little bit because you don't have anything else to do. And as you get further into the race, you start seeing all these other worn out, tired racers that have just decided to sit on the side of the course, and they're like, they've given up. They're like, this is stupid. I'm not running this race anymore. And they all just sit on the side of the course and the side of the trail that you're walking or running down. And they all, as you pass them, they all start screaming, "Give up! It's impossible! Don't do this! You're wasting your time. You're not gonna finish. You can't finish this race. It's unfinishable." And here's the thing: is as you run past them and you hear that, you actually just stop, or you don't stop. You just look at them and you wonder, wait a minute. They just quit the race. They're not even trying anymore. They literally gave up without knowing how far away that finish line was. That finish line could have been just around the next corner. They don't know because they gave up. But not only did they not know and they gave up, they're actively trying to discourage you from continuing on and finding that finishing line. They're even screaming at you from behind you on the course. You've already passed them on that path. You're already further along than they were when they gave up, and they're still yelling at you, telling you to give up because it's impossible. And you have to think to them, how in the world can you know how impossible this is or isn't? Because you didn't even make it. You didn't do it. So you didn't even see where the finish line was. You don't know how hard this is. You can't tell me it's impossible because you gave up. You stopped. It's not impossible. You just gave up. But they want you to think it's impossible. And the reason why they want you to think it's impossible is because they're all secretly scared, but within themselves, that finish line was just around the corner. And after you finish that race, after you actually find that finish line and you finish that race, eventually you're going to come back around and talk to them, and they're going to see you standing up on that podium someday, and you're going to make them realize maybe that they were almost there. They were almost at that finish line when they gave up and stopped. Now, think about that in your drumming career. You don't know how far away you actually are from your goal. I will tell you that when I got my first quote unquote big break, I thought I was a lot further away than I ended up being. That doesn't mean that it happens, but the second time that I made a career out of drums, it took a lot longer. Now, does that mean that you are in fact just around the corner from your career as a pro drummer? I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe, maybe not. But I will tell you this. You have a 100% chance of failure if you stop now. If you stop going down this path, if you don't even take a single step a day, or a week or whatever, if you decide that it's not going to happen for you, I will guarantee you that you'll fail. And I guarantee you the only way to not fail is to continue to take steps. It doesn't matter how slow or fast you feel like you're moving. If you are able to do something to just show up and pursue your craft and regularly do that, regularly invest your time and your effort and your attention into your craft as a drummer, into your pursuit as a professional drummer, you will continue moving towards the goal of actually having that career. And I will guarantee you that if you give up, you won't make it. No one's going to magically swoop in after you've given up on being a drummer and just offer you a gig because they are psychic and they know that you are a drummer. No one's going to do that. It's not going to happen for you if you give up. The only way it can happen is if you don't give up. So today on episode 150, this milestone in my podcast, I want this to be a milestone for you. I want you to decide to continue on. I want you to decide that you're not going to give up. I want you to decide that even if it feels like you're walking so slowly and you're dragging your feet, and today is you can't walk a mile today, you can take one step today. Or you're so tired you're laying down on the path and all you can do is roll over on your back from your stomach and get one half body length closer to the finish line. If that's all you can do that today. Because if you're looking for an excuse for me to give up, you're not going to get it. You don't get to give up and become a professional drummer. So don't give up. And that's all I've got to say to you today. On episode 150 of Drummer Daily, don't give up. Put your own line in the sand. Stick your flag on the ground and say, I'm not giving up on this. It doesn't matter that I haven't made the progress so far that I hoped I would. What matters is that I've made progress, or that I'm going to make progress, or that I am making progress. And that's the only thing that matters. All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me on this journey. I'm so thankful that you're here. I'm so thankful that some of you have stuck with me for 150 episodes. You've been with me since the beginning, and it means so much to me. And so I want this to be an encouragement to you to push forward, fight forward, make this thing happen. You can do it. I honestly believe you can. Thanks for joining me, and we'll talk again really soon. Bye for now.